game wasn't hard enough and it needed the fucking nerd in it, then this is for you. Anyway, let's play some more AVGN games.
We need to talk about your AVGN game for PlayStation 4.
What is this? Why does everyone always drop in uninvited?
I'm sorry. I'm a huge fan and I'm loving the game so far, but to be honest, when going for the platinum, well, it's just a fucking asshole. And it's all because of that one bullshit PlayStation trophy.
I'm one step away from beating the game 100%. I've come so far in my quest. All my gaming skills have been put to the test. I've leveled up all the moves and more. I got so many coins, my hands are getting sore. I'm so close to the blast, to the plat. Just check my trophy stats, made all the bosses pay. There's one more trophy getting in my way, but it's the worst one of all. So this might be where I fall. Really hope I don't flop. I gotta make sure I pop that one bullshit PlayStation trophy.
Okay. Better check it out and make sure they didn't fuck it up.
Developed by Freak Zone Games, Angry Video Game Nerd 1 and 2 Deluxe is a compilation pack of the original Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures game and its sequel, Assimilation, and there's also a final new episode for you to play, so it's essentially 3 in 1. And they all play out like an old school Mega Man game, as this is very much a 2D side-scrolling shooter where you play as the nerd with his trusty NES Zapper.
Die! Yeah!
At the end of most stages you'll have to fight a boss, and while you don't get their abilities like in Mega Man, it does share something else in common with that game: its difficulty.
You know, I've heard a lot of people say this game is very difficult, but I'm not having any trouble with it. I mean, come on, it's my game! I'm the fucking nerd!
You might want to rethink that there, nerd, because if you look at your stats screen, you can see that you died twice.
You died in the tutorial level, nerd. Who dies in the tutorial level? Man, make no mistake about it, this game is hard as nails. And the totally perfect nerd trophy is just absolutely bullshit. It's the most bullshit part of the game.
Yeah.
As the trophy requires you to get a perfect on all stages in all of the games, and that means beating every level and its boss without dying.
So yeah, you can't die in a level. You think you're still good enough for it, nerd? Go on then, try it in a level. But remember, you can't die.
Yeah. Okay. There's Assholevania. It's as if you took all the things that were frustrating about the Castlevania games and the Mega Man games and put them all together.
Yeah, nerd, I agree. This level is filled with all kinds of bullshit traps, and the nerd can't actually jump on the enemies like in Mario or something like that, so you have to kill them with the gun, which can be awkward.
Even your attack is bullshit, man. You have to keep tapping the button every time you want to fire a single bullet. You can't just hold it down and auto-fire. It's such a pain in the ass, especially when the enemies are just absolute bullet sponges.
Like this knob right here, look how many bullets he's going to take, nerd, before you finally kill him. It's ridiculous.
Die already! Oh my god!
And trust me, nerd, it might not seem like much now, but when you've died over and over in a stage trying to perfect it, that will really start to piss you off.
It was the first sort of warning sign that the game gave me that this was a title that was meant to more frustrate and challenge me, rather than being a really easy and enjoyable adventure where I could reminisce about my favourite episodes of the Angry Video Game Nerd show, as there's just so many different and awkward ways that you can easily die in this game, from falling down bottomless pits or just getting taken out by a trap. But perhaps the worst part of the game is these death blocks. Oh my god, the death blocks. They are the worst part about this game. by far, as it's an enemy that you cannot kill or destroy, and if you touch them once, you are instantly dead, even if you had full health. What a load of bullshit.
No way. They didn't. The biggest obstacle are these death blocks. You touch them, you die. It's all about getting these patterns down, and there's hardly any room to fuck up. Ah, undershot it. Ah, overshot it. You think there's enough death blocks?
Sadly, nerd, that's not the last we'll see of those dreaded death blocks. But once you get past them, we then just have the end of stage boss fight to deal with. To be fair, most of the boss fights are fairly easy to kill because there's an easy pattern for you to avoid their attacks, and each boss area has a health pickup for you, so the stage itself is much more challenging to get through without dying than actually the boss at the end of them. So that is one perfect down, but before we go any further, we need to make some drastic changes. You see, one of the biggest complaints when these games first came out was that they were too fucking hard with all these death blocks. So thankfully, in this version of the game, they released it with an easy difficulty option, which removes a large chunk of the death blocks in each level. As you can see here, they've now been replaced with spikes, which will hurt you, but they won't instantly kill you, and that is a game changer when going for the platinum. You also want to disable the screen shake and turn on auto fire.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why we should play it on easy, because it's much less bullshit, though it's still kind of shitty in places, but it's a lot more manageable.
Another plus point for me is that the game clearly marks which levels you've perfected, whether it's a gold icon or it actually says perfect underneath the level option. It's just such a simple feature, but a lot of games don't do it, so I'll give it credit here. The next level we're going to try is the by farts consumed level, which takes us underground to hell, and there's a lot of annoying spike traps and lava here that can easily kill us in one hit, but we do get a cool little ride on a shark, which is pretty cool. And once we go up this ladder, we end up having this free-fall boss fight against the devil himself, which is pretty easy to avoid his attacks and the spikes, because playing on easy, there are spikes and not death blocks. But this level is quite long, taking us 7 minutes in total to perfect. Whew, okay, that's 2 down, but we've still got a long way to go, nerd. Next up is Blizzard of Bulls. So, one of the problems is that these levels in the first game are quite long. You're looking at anywhere between 4 and maybe 8 minutes for you to get through it and kill the boss at the end. And when you're playing it carefully to get this perfect run without dying, you're going to be going slower anyway, and that can make it even more frustrating when you get so far into the level and die by a simple mistake and then have to repeat the whole thing. And this Blizzard level actually has like 2 boss fights in it, because you have to take out Santa Claus at one point, and then you have to ride him as a sled down a hill and avoid the bottomless pits that you can't actually see coming. Then you have the final boss fight in the level against 3 ghosts. Jesus Christ, man.
Then there's the happy land where everything is smiling. No matter where I die or how I die, there's always one of these things making fun of me.
Well, I'll be honest, nerd, the smiling faces didn't really distract me, and this level was kind of easy in my opinion, as there wasn't too many things that could just cheaply, bullshittingly kill you, and the Bernstein Bears boss fight at the end was again an easy boss battle. It was also one of the shorter levels, only taking me just over 4 minutes to complete. So next up is the Plumbers Don't Wear Ties level, which sees you bouncing on a pair of tits, sliding across cum-stained platforms, avoiding dildos that rise up out of the floor, and just generally being a bit of a weird level, where you end up having a boss fight against this naked cowboy that just wants to sit on you. Yep, can't believe I just said that, but while that level was easy, the level which features the Where Did You Learn to Fly face as a boss battle at the end definitely turns up the difficulty a notch. As you can see here, my first attempt of just getting through the level took me nearly 8.5 minutes, and I died 9 times, and it was mainly due to these really annoying yellow laser beams that you sometimes have to get past as they turn off, and the timing to do them is just really awkward. There's also more death blocks here, and these moving platforms that were in Mega Man that used to really annoy me. Overall, it's kind of bullshit.
Whoever came up with this is... Exactly. They read my mind. They're an asshole, which means the asshole who made this game acknowledged that they're an asshole and that I'd call them an asshole. You asshole.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of an asshole stage, to be fair, because those yellow beams are just annoying, and then you have these platforms that you have to shoot with your gun in order to move them, but they put death blocks there as well, so you'll just end up sliding into them. Fucking annoying. And because those yellow beams are on for ages, you're wasting a load of time waiting around for them to disappear. Eventually though, you'll get through it and it'll be another perfect stage down, and then we can go on to the next stage, which, if you go down the ladder at the start, you'll think, fuck that, this looks bullshit, but you don't actually need to say fuck it, as you don't need to go down that ladder. You can stay up top and bounce on the mushrooms, and it's a fairly easy bit up top, with your only threat being bubbles. Yep, bubbles. It's when you go underground, however, that it gets a bit more tricky, as we get more of those Mega Man style blocks that will disappear and reappear, and you have to time your jumps on them in order to get across platforms. Thankfully, on easy, the pitfalls that you fall down into won't have death blocks, they'll just be spikes, so you can recover. The worst part of the stage for me was this spike trap here, where it will just trigger straight away and you'll be tempted to just climb up it right away, but you won't actually make it, so you need to wait, trigger it, and then once it comes out, climb up it. The final section on the dragon is a bit tricky because there's lots of death blocks for you to avoid here, but if you can get past them, the final boss fight with the dragon is fairly easy to kill.
The remaining level is Boo Haunted House. You have to play the whole stage in tunnel vision, and this is where they really get carried away with the death block.
Oh, nerd. Imagine if we were still playing on old school, all of the spikes here would actually be death blocks that could just kill us instantly, and when we can't see that much in front of us, we've just got to take risks in this level, but the game always puts these spikes and death blocks in really cheap and bullshit places just to deliberately catch you out and frustrate you. Then when you get to this point in the level where you have to jump on this green platform as it moves across this bottomless pit in the dark, it can be really easy to get overwhelmed here as you're trying to avoid all the ghosts that are attacking you and keep up with the platform, so it's an easy point for you to die. Then when you get off it and land on the ground falls away, so it's just another nightmare to get through. And then at the end you have a 2 versus 1 boss fight which can actually kill you. This one, it's one of the trickier ones in the game. Overall though, I just feel this is one of the worst levels. It's just definitely one of the more bullshit and cheap feeling levels in the entire game.
After you've conquered all the stages, one last final stage appeared. Laughin', jokin' numbnuts, the bane of my existence. This is deliberately designed to be one of the most unfair stages in video game history. For example, you have to shoot this gear to make the platform move, but then you're killed by the death block, so you have to jump faster than your own bullet. And after that, more death blocks appear out of nowhere. Meanwhile, there's all kinds of shit flying everywhere. There's not one stable spot to stand to catch your breath. You gotta keep moving. You don't even have time to think. I can't even blame anyone but myself. I came up with this. What was I thinking?
It feels really strange to me that all of the levels are really tough, yet the end of level bosses are just stupidly easy. Like this final boss fight against Fred Fuchs, I can just stand on this ledge here and easily kill him without getting hit too much. It just feels really unbalanced that the stages are really difficult, but the bosses aren't. But with that done, every level in the first game is perfected and we're on our way to getting this trophy.
Well, hey, we managed to beat the first game, and the sequel, it's just pretty much the same as before, isn't it? So I reckon we'll be okay.
Yeah.
We should be able to get perfect on all of those levels pretty easy. Right?
Well, not exactly. While a simulation is pretty much the same sort of game as before, it's a much bigger one as it has a big overworld map for you to go around in, and there are generally 3 levels in each area and then a boss fight level. So each sort of zone that you go to, there's more levels for you to actually complete and get perfect in. The first sort of level of a zone is just your typical sort of platforming, sort of shooting sort of section. You then might find that the second stage of that zone is like an auto scroller, so you might be in a vehicle or you might just be racing against the screen to try and sort of keep up with it, because if you end up getting caught off screen you just instantly die. And then you also might find that there are sort of mini bosses throughout the level, Now, the first game had a couple of these, but this one you tend to do it more often than not. And then the third stage could also be another sort of vehicle section, or just a more sort of trickier sort of platforming section for you to go through. So you'll need to do every one of those levels perfectly without dying, and then it's on to the boss stage, which is literally just the boss fight. So thankfully you don't have to do another level on top of that, and they're all fairly easy to kill. To help you along the way in this game, you get some various power-ups such as rapid fire, more damaging bullets, and best of all, a cape which allows you to sort of glide like you could in Mario World, and that will definitely come in handy.
So yeah, for the most part, the levels in the second game are kind of easy, but there's at least about 3 levels that are just absolute bullshit. They are really, really going to test your patience, nerd.
Ugh, this level with all the portals that you have to go through in order to progress is one of the worst levels in the game. It's very frustrating when trying to get a perfect on this one, as if you don't go into a portal pixel perfect, you might find that you just flop out of it and fall onto a death block, or you send yourself flying into another one, and that's just an instant death then, and you'll die. And even on easy, you still have loads of death blocks on these screens, and when you have to climb down in this section here and make sure you're either on the floor or the ceiling as you go through one, it can be really tricky, because one mistake there again and you can instantly find yourself coming out of a portal and hitting the death block. The shitty security breach level is also another frustrating one, mainly due to just the awkwardness of either changing the gravity so you're on the floor or the ceiling, add in the annoying portals and those annoying laser beams, and it's just one hell of a frustrating level. This section here is an absolute pain in the ass. Trying to bounce on these switches to change the gravity, all the while avoiding the pitfalls and the laser beams, is an absolute nightmare, and I lost loads of perfect runs to this bit alone. It's just a really frustrating level.
What were you thinking? This is absolute shit.
However, all of the annoying levels we've encountered so far pale in comparison to virtual insanity.
It's just fucking bullshit.
Oh no. Is that why the game was designed this way? All the random enemies and all those things? It's because those are the kind of things I complained about. This game is all my fault. Ugh.
Right from the start, when you have to do a really awkward wall jump, dodging death blocks, a rotating fire stick thing, and a laser beam in the middle, you know you're in for a hellish nightmare trying to get through this level without dying. There's also another bullshit portal that you have to make sure you go through pixel perfect right after that. And then there's some horrible sort of platforming sections and a shitload of enemies for you to kill and try not to get hit by. This one is an absolute fucking nightmare. Then you have this bit here where you can get stuck in an endless loop until you eventually die.
Look at this. Look at all these death blocks. I hate them. I hate them as much as the fucking Medusa heads in Castlevania or the grass in Bill and Ted. Every game has its thing, and this one's thing is to piss me off. It was made to piss me off.
This level is a major step up from the others and a big spike in difficulty, even on easy.
It's just shit. Absolutely fucking shit.
For me, if you can beat this level without dying, you can do the rest of the levels in the game and easily get the trophy, as this is the toughest challenge. And then right at the end, you get the final fight with Fred Fucks.
Finally, I get to kick his ass. Ah, fuck you, Fred Fucks! Fuck! Ah!
But with that out of the way and finally done, we've still got the final episode.
The Tower of Torment, the final chapter, is more of a DLC sort of extra level pack, as there are only 3 levels and then a 4th boss level, so it's not really a sort of third game in the series, and as a result, a lot of it is just reused sort of ideas and assets from the second game, and you also get to take all your power-ups from that game into this one. So most of what you'll do in these few levels are just things you've already done in the previous game's levels. So this one here, the first level, you get those switches that can put you on the floor or the ceiling. So it's just pretty much just going through that same sort of thing again, so it shouldn't give you too much trouble. The second level is a bit different, to its credit, as it's a kind of a prolonged boss fight with the big rigs truck, as this truck will just chase you throughout the level. It will come from the left to the right and then the right to the left, so it goes back and forth through this long level, and you just basically have to make sure you're either up high or down low so you avoid it every time it passes. And the rest of the level is fairly straightforward, so it's just timing of when you make your runs to avoid the truck. So that one shouldn't take you too long to perfect. The last level, Terrible Tower, is basically a 4 or 5 minute long climb up the tower, and basically the screen wraps on this one, so you can go out of the right side of the screen and come back on the left side, like some old school NES games used to do, like Ice Climber. I thought this one was going to be an absolute nightmare, and it wasn't too bad, though unfortunately for me, I kept dying on the last death block of the entire tower, which meant that my 4 or 5 minute run was wiped and I had to start again. Fucking pain in the ass. But if you go slow and be careful, it's not too bad. And once we've done that, we've perfected every level and unlocked the trophy, having got past all the bullshit death blocks and cheap traps in the game that are worthy of a rant from AVGN himself.
I feel like I played every bad game I ever played all at once, and now others are playing it because of me. It's like I shared all my horrible experiences. It's all my fault. Fuck this game!
We did it, nerd!
Yeah.
Yes! Trophy unlocked, and now we've also got the platinum. Well, I've got the platinum, because it was my account.
Yeah.
Ah, this feels great. And you know what, nerd? I think all that's left to do is give this trophy a bullshit rating. So, for everything we've mentioned in this video, the Totally Perfect Nerd Trophy in AVGN Adventures 1 and 2 Deluxe on PS4 gets a bullshit trophy rating of...
Alright, here we go. Let's go! Shit!
Shit!
Whoa, whoa, whoa,